Hey, friend.
Hello, hello.
How are you? Shout out.
Good.
I think it's Shari who was here early, ready to go. We are going to get started shortly. How are you today, Tamika? So,
With all that's going on, I guess I'm doing okay.
you don't have to be.
Right. I'm just I feel like I'm in that phase where it's just a moment of numbness, really, and just I don't even know if okay is the word. I'm here.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah, being here is fine,
Here.
and not having the language is also right. Like
Right.
I hate you. I was excited about class today. And literally, as I was running to get to pick up something, full geared up, I get a text, and I'm thinking that it's about a meeting I had earlier, some follow up, and then I spent hours learning about my brother. So for those who are listening, as we wait to get started, I'm gonna have to move this at some point. I didn't charge my computer, and I think it's gonna die. Let me change this plug and then we'll get started. But I'm talking about a young man named Tony McDade. You should all look him up and know what happened to him. Give me 1 second, Tamika.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also trying to change this. Okay, friend, I'm back. Now let's see if I can get this to work and then we'll be good to go. Let's see yet. Hello, Meredith, Shari, Tasha, and Kaim. I apologize if I got those all wrong. Thank you all for joining us. This down. Change this to Tasha. Not yet. Meredith says, "Good evening, David. I appreciate that. Please feel free to use the chat during the conversation as well as a Q&A box should you have a specific question for our esteemed panel." Let me try this one more. YouTube doesn't seem to be working. Nope. Ooh, hello? What was that? I lose you, did I?
I'm here.
Too many windows. Not ordered a new computer. Folks are still coming in. I appreciate y'all joining us. I look shiny.
I know. I do that every time.
I know I'm not supposed to be touching my face with all this COVID, although I've been home and I wash my hands incessantly.
You can't help it. It's the light. You just can't help it. Every time I come on something, I'm like, oh, the forehead.
All of that. I have almost forehead. Every time I look at myself, I'm like, I'm gonna cover my pants. soon as Janice comes on, let's see if that is. I see Tasha. There she is. Hey, Tasha. I wonder if that's my boo, Tasha. I'm gonna also close these windows. Janice, turn your cam on so we can start.
Can you see me?
I see you. How?
Hi, Tamika. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
We all do the same thing once that camera comes on.
You look beautiful, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
I'll connect these. We'll be ready to go. Let's see if that actually works. Yeah, you look like you have that Real Housewives setup. Like they said, like Andy sent you a little camera crew.
Who, me?
That's you.
This. I'm in my mother's girl cave.
Listen, I'm here.
Which is right. Like we've tilted away from the front door, so you don't see the chain on the door.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna try this once more, and then we'll get started. I was trying to broadcast live to YouTube at the same time, but of course, the technology at this point.
So where are we broadcasting to? How's it work?
NBJC on the move.
It's
going to work. It's not working. I'm gonna let it go. Honoring your time as well as the time of the guests who have joined us, and everyone now knows, as is often the case, not often, always the case, this will be archived on NBJC's website. So people can access it. Somebody asked about that earlier today. Also want to acknowledge, again, shout out to Shari, I believe is how, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If not, chat us so I can get it right, who was here early, promptly. I acknowledge you, I see you. And also want folks to know who were invited by or were excited to see Dawana. She is stuck on a plane, as is the case in the lives of busy people who were often also brave enough to travel during this pandemic. She's on a plane. She was hoping that the plane would have landed in enough time to join us, but that's not going to be the case. And so she has agreed to watch the video, to listen to the conversation, and then to reflect and respond with me on Instagram Live. And so we'll find a way to make this iterative. I'll share that with the two of you, and if we can, and it makes sense for us to do this again as a group, we'll make space for that. And so for those who don't know, my name is David, super excited to be the quarterback of NBJC, but more excited to be having a conversation with two of my friends about things that I know are affecting all of us in the world, but that have a unique impact on the lives of small business owners. I'm going to ask them a first question that will allow them to introduce themselves, but do want to offer up three things. It is significant to me to appreciate that small businesses employ more than half people who are employed in the workforce in our country generally, right? And so before COVID, small businesses accounted for more than 50% of the workforce. And now after COVID, more than a third of the jobs within small businesses specifically are vulnerable. There have been more than 30 million people who are filed for unemployment the last time that data was collected. And there are a lot of small business owners who have been left out of the way that the government has defined businesses and otherwise provided resources to business owners. And so I've invited and have here two of my good friends, one, Tamika Rochester, who is the owner of Harlem Cycle, a part of my family and village, and the other one is Joshua, who is the co-founder and leader of the Technique Agency. And while you might not recognize the name, you have definitely seen their work. And so I want to pause and say thank you to both of you, being busy business owners, pivoting during the COVID, the pandemic. I appreciate you and want you to hear me say thank you for making space tonight.
Anything for you, David.
And so with that context, I also think it important, right? There are two Black women here, women of color. And I invited Dawana, who's a Black woman, business owner as well. She also worked at SBA And so I was hoping that she was going to reflect on some of the stuff that's happened in this current administration. But there are before COVID, there were also, I researched 2.4 million Black women-owned businesses in the country. And now that is significant because Black women are the only community of women who own more businesses than men. And so for every other community of women, it's inverted. And so I really want to ask both of you before we get into the deficit part of this conversation and to talk about the impact that this global pandemic has had on both of you. I really want to ask you to share with us a story of how you came to be business owners. And if you could also talk about one of the things that you hold on to as the highlight of your experience in that journey. Why don't we start with you, Tamika, and then only because of the way that the boxes are organized, and then you could supplement with her, Yaya.
Okay, so hi guys. As David mentioned, I am owner of Harlem Cycle. We are Harlem's first and only indoor cycling studio, which is important to note, particularly in New York City. That's very significant because if you go downtown, every 2 blocks, there's another cycling studio. So cycling is very huge in the city, except for it didn't hit Harlem. Now, what brought me to cycling was I loved cycling. That was my go-to workout. That's what I wanted to do when on my downtime. But the only places available for me were downtown. And so their facilities were nice, and I'd go in and I'd take a class here or there. But there wasn't that welcoming feeling. And it's just in the air. There's a difference. You know the difference when you walk in there. Many times I was the only person of color. I didn't enjoy the music that they were playing. And music is critical for what I find for my motivation. And then from there, I discovered like the local YMCA, which had the good music, but they didn't have the customer service and they didn't have the facilities. And I frankly was just tired of always having to settle. I either had to settle for like an upscale facility, upscale bikes, but terrible music and a community that didn't really feel the warmth coming from me. Or second, I had great music and the facilities and customer service and convenience just wasn't there. And so, as someone who I was frankly just tired of constantly having to settle within my life, particularly because I was also a single mom and I didn't have a lot of downtime. I didn't have a lot of downtime to be going to places that I wasn't 100% satisfied. So one day I was out running and I said, you know what? I'll just do it myself. So I've always kind of lived by that motto that if you want something done right, do it yourself. Yeah. And so I decided to open Harlem Cycle. At the time I was working at a Fortune 500 company. I had just transitioned into marketing maybe 3 years before then. I started as an engineer, then transitioned into marketing. So fitness was not my background. I transitioned and just, I just really wanted this to happen. I wanted our community to have high end, but still have that community feel, still created the culture that I wanted to have, and that culture is Harlem. And if you guys are familiar with Harlem Renaissance, the arts, the culture, the community, that needed to be a part of my business. And so I felt that I would be the best person equipped for this, even though at the time I had no background in fitness.
I appreciate that. I want to shout out Mikey, your brilliant son, who is one of my favorite people. And also really co-sign. It took me a lot longer to find the studio, given that Tamika and I have known each other since we were undergraduate students connected through the Taylor Michael Scholarship Program. Shout out to Magic Johnson. But once I found myself on a bike, it's been hard to get me off. And it has helped me find a connection and an anchor to my fitness journey, in part because of the community that has been established. Similarly, when I think about the Technique Agency, I think about community and family. I know we have the other half of Technique. Takoya is on the chat. She's already sending love your way. And I know that both of you work really well as a family to ensure that you are supporting the family of artists that you employ. So similarly, would you tell us about your journey to business ownership and what has been the highlight?
Well, first, I would say that this was all an accident. I never intended to be an entrepreneur. I never had a desire to own a business. I never did. I was fine. My aspirations before was to be a sports agent and entertainment attorney. It was never to work in beauty, even though I've always loved it. And I started my career in hair. I was marketing director of Indeed Hair when I met Takoa 10 years ago at this point, right? And we always worked well together, but we were not friends, but we worked well together. And long story short, it's a very long story, like when we tell, and Code loves it when I tell the story, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes for the interest of time. So Technique, this iteration that we're currently living of Technique started in 2014. And it started with a bank account that was negative $43.75. So it did not start with a trust fund. It did not start with a large savings. It did not start with backing from from any major bank. It didn't start with a basketball player baby daddy. It started with two Black women that knew beauty and knew that there was a whole legion of artists out there in the world that needed fair representation, and they needed people that looked like them that were going to fight for them. But before what the version of Technique that we're living now, Technique has had many lives. It was a PR firm at one point. It was an agency, but it wasn't an agency that exists as it does now. So we have had we represent makeup artists, hairstylists, fashion stylists, and nail techs that work in television and film and editorial and red carpet primarily. And then we also have a lifestyle division where we represent business leaders. So those are our two divisions. Our claim to fame is being the glam squad, or creating the glam squad for the Love and Hip Hop franchise. And from there, we have worked on almost every single reality television show that there is. And it's rewarding, right? It's rewarding to see your name on the screen. It's rewarding to make people's dreams come true. It's rewarding to have a business that continues to grow and iterate, especially when you didn't think that this was ever how your life was going to be. This is a family business, and we always bill it as such because, first of all, people always think that Taco and I are related. That's number one. We have had family members that have worked and still work in the business. Our executive assistant, who's been with us for 5 years, she is the niece of a former client. My sister is the finance manager. Chikoa's two sisters have both had finance and operational roles in the business. So we have always slated this as a family business, one, and as a business that's going to outlast us, right? So that's the story in a nutshell.
I appreciate that, Donna Marie in the chat affirmed earlier, Tamika, when you said you were constantly having to settle, so you decided to do it yourself, right? Filling a void, but also knowing your worth. And then similarly, Yaya, you acknowledged that as well, right? Filling a void and knowing your worth, right? Like you came into this knowing hair, you came into this partnering with someone who was able to add value, and the two of you together have just taken things to the next level and provided a service that people clearly need. And so I want to acknowledge that those needs have not changed, but everything around us has, right? We are all in New York, and for the last, I don't know how many weeks now, have been under some form of a stay-at-home order. I know that both of your businesses, in addition to your lives, have been impacted. So I want to invite you to say a little bit about that. How has your business been impacted by COVID and the response to it? Yaya, why don't you start, and then Tamika will come to you.
COVID-19 was a complete gut punch, right? And when I tell you, there's no social distancing in hair and makeup. You're in someone's face, you're in someone's head. Like it is a full contact sport. And we literally, in the span of 36 hours, had 9 productions shut down, back to back to back to back to back to back. Some shut down in the middle of the night. Some, we had about 10 artists on set, and they all had to evacuate set because on that particular set, someone that worked there was diagnosed, like they found out someone who worked there had the coronavirus. So it shocks you, right? Like, because we didn't really have time, and I mean, no one had time to really prepare, because we went from the beginning, like March 1st, it was all cool, to March 16th, everything stopped. So you literally had 15 days, right? So in the span of that 15 days, but then that was around when our last show went dark. We weren't even preparing for what's happening next. We were like, how do we make sure that our staff, first of all, an internal staff is safe because we have staff across 3 states. And then our artists are safe because they're the ones working on set. So that was always the first priority. What are we going to do? Because we didn't know what it was going to look like. Then when we realized that we weren't going to be working, and even though we work on 15 and 30-day invoices, so okay, the invoices were still coming in, but by the middle of April, the money stopped. So we had from March 16th up until I would say safely April 1st to really strategize what we were going to do. What was this going to look like? Were we going to have to let our internal staff go? Were we going to have to go off of payroll? What about insurance? We have to have health insurance. What bills are going to be deferred? So it was a lot of moving parts that we did not have a lot of time to figure out.
And were there any, was there anything to help you in that process? Were there messages or resources coming from the local government? I know sure as hell they weren't coming from the federal government, but like, were there things for you to leverage in that process, or were you blind essentially?
So, and this is what I would say, and this is what I told everyone who was going through this. There are 3 people that you need to speak to, and that you should have been speaking to during this time. You still need to be speaking to. You need to be speaking to your banker, you need to be speaking to your accountant, and you need to be speaking to your lawyer. And we have our accountant and a lawyer on retainer, and we have a strong relationship with our banker. And it was those 3 people that really got, along with constant research and constant being aware of what's going on. Because as a business owner, you always have to have your eye on your money, right? So we knew what the next 30 days were going to look like because we already had it forecasted. We knew what was coming in. Like, our books are clean as a whistle. So we knew what was happening. It was after April 1st, we had no idea what was going to happen. So that's what we had to plan for. If we did not have the strong relationships with our lawyer, accountant, and banker, and also with the information at large, right? If we did not have that tenacity to do that constant research and also create a network of other business owners that had that same mentality of, we got to survive this and we're going to do this together, then we would have had to close our doors. I guarantee that. I don't know how people survived without having a strong relationship with those 3 people. Your accountant's telling you what to do with your money, where to cut back, where to save, what to invest, what to divest. Your lawyer is going to help you get out of these contracts because there's no insurance, right? Insurance didn't cover anything that happened. Your health insurance, yes, but any professional insurance that you had, there was no coverage in entertainment for it. You lost that money, it was gone. We lost $200,000 in business in a week. And there was no coverage for it. So then what do we do? So if it wasn't for that, what I call our dream team, we literally would have had to shutter.
Wow.
So that was, so, you know, the information that's coming from the SBA and from the government was very, like, they were still figuring out. Everything was trial by fire. Nobody knew what was happening. So you really had to know what was happening internally. So you had to weather your own storm within your business before you could even start venturing out into outside sources, like the PPP loans and the EIDL loans and all the different grants that and still are available at this time.
And did those grants consider the industry or the kind of work that you and your teams do? Was that accounted for fully? I see Tamika's head shaking.
No. Nope.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we joined the Beauty Relief Fund along with the mobile beauty app Bonti, the hair care platform, The Cut Life, and Nappy Hair Extensions to provide short-term funding to makeup artists, hairstylists, fashion stylists, nail techs, estheticians, because outside of unemployment, there was nothing for them really.
Yeah.
So we banded together to figure it out for them.
Yeah.
Because literally everyone was trying to get through the forest with blinders on.
At the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Tamika, I see you been nodding your head, and I also know that I helped to found a relief fund as well. Share a bit about your experience.
So similar, same thing. It's like overnight. We went from, oh, just wash your hands to shut down in like a 2-day span. That's how it felt like to me. And so, New York, I felt like we were blindsided. Come on the 16th, it was like all fitness studios, all gyms shut down. And the night before, it was like, make sure that you're encouraging people to wash hands. There was no planning time within a 24-hour span for us to really plan. And, similar to Yanni's, the moment we shut down, I made one very important call. I called my landlord. And we have a great relationship. And, I told her, I said, it was part of the negotiations was, okay, if we're shut down for a month, you'll get your rent. We're shut down for 2 months, you'll get some rent. You shut down for 3, 4, 5 months, this is how much I can pay you. Because at the end of the day, like, I am a fitness studio, and we do not, when our doors closed, that meant no income was coming in after that point. I couldn't charge people monthly packages. Anyone that already had a package, I had to put it on hold. So that means when I open back up, I still have to give those people that service. So there's not going to be any money coming in when I open back up, because I owe people services who had paid for a package in advance. So that money's gone. So there's still going to be a slow ramping up process for me. So the first call I made was to my landlord. She was very understanding. Unfortunately, she also owns one building, and she's, that she used her retirement. She had cancer last year. Like, it's a whole situation with her. So,
the domino effect.
It's a domino effect. There's nothing she could really do until the mortgage company gave her some relief. Like, so we're, to this date, I've been able to constantly pay our rent, but, going into next month and next month, it's a constant negotiation, a constant talking through of things. All of my instructors on my team are independent contractors. That's just how the fitness industry is. They work across multiple different studios. So they're all independent contractors, but in one day, every source of income for them shut down. Like, it was like they're all completely out of work. Now, we have some that work full-time somewhere else and teach for us as a passion project or something they do after work, which is great. That means they had income coming somewhere else. So the first thing I did after we closed our doors was, one, talk to my team and ask, how can I best support you? Like, what can I do to make sure that you're okay? And so for those that were working full-time, like, you're not part of this conversation, you still got a job, you're good right now. The rest of us that are all the way into fitness, let's see what we can do to make sure we can provide income. So we put together mat-based at-home workouts. Within 24 hours, we had filmed 6 different workouts that we could, have for on demand if people could down. Would be classes. Getting any money from those classes. It's going directly to them. And that was all within literally 24 hours.
Can you hear me?
And by 36, sorry.
So hold on. The connection is a little bit weak, and there are a couple of folks who are saying that what you're saying is amazing. Can you go back to, we created floor mat workouts, and then catch us up?
Okay, yeah, so we created these amazing mat-based workouts, because all of us are trained in something else. I have my group fitness certification on top of my cycling certification, and we know how to do fitness, no matter what it is, no matter what equipment. And so we put together these really great workout programs and workout classes. We created this live stream schedule where all of the funds that, if the instructor teaches it, all the funds go to them. So it's only the classes that I'm teaching that the studio is getting money from. And, so that's a lot of pressure, and there's no way I can teach 50 classes to make up for the income that we've lost. Yeah. But at the end of this, I want my same team back. I want the same team that it took me years to find that are amazing. I want them to all do well, and I want them to be able to come back into fitness. So that the goal of this is to make sure they're taken care of as well as the studio is taken care of, because our studio is about community, and community starts with my instructors. We're the first part of that community. So I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. That was the first 36 hours of coming up with this program. Plus then finding the technology, connecting it to our platforms and our scheduling platform, and making sure, like, all that takes a lot of time and effort, and creating these videos and filming them, and like creating a source, updating our website. Like, there was the first 4 days I didn't sleep at all, because all this had to be done. We couldn't be behind the ball on these things. Like, we really had to get it out there. But then most importantly, I was very honest and open with our clients. I sent out a lot of communication on like, here's what's going on. This is what's happening. I don't know when we're coming back. Here's what's going to happen to your account. Like, if you have any questions, here's my personal number, text me. Like, it was very honest and upfront with our clients, which I think is, that's part of the mission and vision of the studio anyway, is to have that community aspect. And, this was the first time I had to really tuck my tail in, because I realized come April 1st, all my monthlies went away. All the people who are on monthly plans, that's what feeds our business, all of our plans. I reached out to our monthlies individually and said, hey, I have a real bold request. Can you give me one more month? Can you if you had planned on paying me for April for your next month, can I have April? Half of them said yes. And see, I naturally was going in and just canceling and putting everyone's account on hold until I realized I can't do this. Like, if I did that, Harlem Cycle would not be able to pay any.
Mm-hmm.
Personal financial situation.
The challenges of technology.
We needed it. Like, the studio really needed it.
Can you also say a bit more about the pivot in terms of the bike? So I also thought that was pretty innovative.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was super cool.
Help us understand how you.
I have to applaud you, Tamika. When I saw David had his bike, I was like, wait a minute now.
Right. So a lot of our clients, so even with our mat-based classes and these amazing workouts, and they really are good. These are some really good workouts. Like, I'm losing weight from doing these classes because my body's so used to cycling. Now that I'm doing all this extra stuff, it's like my body is changing. It's great. But what I realized was our clients come to us because they love cycling. Like, we're a cycling studio. This is their go-to workout. And I realized people were going to take some time before they even adjusted over to the mat. They were going to drag their feet and be like, well, let me see how long this is going to last, because I can go a month without working out. And I was like, no, you cannot. So I rented out all of our bikes, had them delivered to our clients' homes. Because also I didn't want them buying Pelotons. I didn't want them buying the competitors. I didn't want them going out there and being like, all right, I'm invested in a bike and I'm never coming back to Harlem Cycle when this is over. No. So we rented out our bikes, shipped them to our top clients. And so now they're at their homes and we just live stream classes for free to them so that we can keep that connection going.
Yeah, I wanted to again highlight that because I think that the ways that both of you have pivoted and are continuing to pivot is noble. And I also hope that you are, this will be a part of the time capsule, but that you're writing this down, that you're reflecting upon it, because the acquisition and application of these new skills, I'm sure will serve you and the legacy for some time to come. I'm checking the chat to see if other folks have questions. People are essentially saying this is really impressive to send out bikes. Really appreciate you bossing up to be honest and take care of what needed to be done and to have the conversation. People are saying that that's Black Brilliance in action. So I just want to acknowledge that. Honoring where we are now, and that we're still we're still unclear about where we're going, right? As people have conversations about opening up. I first want to know, like, so we know some people in entertainment are still getting glam, but I still imagine that most folks are just not working.
Right.
Right. And so.
And we're not hiring, and they're not booking through us because we won't do it.
Because of safety concerns?
It's because safety concerns, and it's not covered under insurance. It's too large of a risk and a liability to take from a business standpoint to book at this point. And
so what, two separate questions, but what do you all need, or what would you recommend to folks in power, to this administration, to the governor, to the mayor? What do they need to know that they might have missed up until this point in order to ensure that small businesses, in particular Black women businesses, thrive?
That's a good question, David. I will say where the boat was missed in entertainment was the entertainment industry was the last industry to get on the boat for any kind of funding. So it is our job to entertain you on any aspect. And it takes a large team to bring a show to life, or any kind of production. It takes a director, it takes producers, it takes stagehands, it takes grips, it takes catering, it takes hair and makeup and stylists. It's a huge undertaking to bring a show to life. And for all the millions of people that are employed by the entertainment industry, they were not accounted for.
Right.
We were the last industry to be added to unemployment. And because a lot of artists work as freelancers and they're just working, right? So they aren't necessarily saving, even though at Technique, we really pride ourselves in going the extra mile for artists and saying, listen, if you are a business, run yourself as such, pay yourself as such, set yourself up as such. But we knew going into this that if we were confused and we are on top of it, then they are even more confused. So we have given tons of information to our roster, which is now at 70 people, about where to find funding, how to apply for unemployment, if they needed letters to send to their landlords, or for car insurance, or for mortgages, or whatever they needed, we provided for them.
You're doing
right?
what the SBA should otherwise be doing as well.
Right. We are giving them as much information as possible because, like Tamika said, we need this team. We always say that our people are our gold. So if we don't have hair and makeup, listen, I stopped doing makeup professionally when I was 23 years old. Takoa retired her brushes 4 years ago. So if it's gonna count on me and her doing makeup, ain't no makeup getting done. Okay? Ain't no hair getting done. It's not happening. So we need our artists to come back, and we need them to come back in one piece, right? And we need them to come back empowered that they can do their job. So there has not been a lot of guidance across the board. The information is so convoluted and so confusing and so muddy that you literally are reading in between the lines to figure out what's approved, what's not approved, what's a good expense, what is not, what's forgivable, what's not forgivable. Like, it is a full-time job figuring this out, right? So that's important. Like, that is really important to me, to make sure, and to us, to make sure that our artists are empowered and are informed and know where to turn to for resources. That's one. What they need to know, what the people in power need to know, is that this is trial by fire. And I can't even say that this is specific to our industry, to the entertainment and beauty industry, because they have been left out. So, like, they've literally been boxed out of this system, and Black businesses have been boxed out of this system, and boxed out of relief funds. Mm-hmm. If Black women make up such a large percentage of entrepreneurship, then make sure we're taken care of.
Yeah.
Because we're funding people's lives.
Yep.
Like,
that's literally what I just wrote down and I'm working on a policy report about all of this, and it's one, I think there's a missed campaign opportunity for the Biden campaign in particular right now, to be talking to people who are new to unemployment, who are small business owners, who are independent contractors.
They're not speaking their language, and they're not making it plain, David. You have to make it plain. Yeah. Like, that's one thing. I am a very smart person. I always say to people, make it plain. Speak to me, not like I'm a 5-year-old child, like, don't speak to my 5-year-old, but make it as plain as you would for that person. Because if I'm a makeup artist and all I do is work and all I do is do makeup, and all I know is that I collect a 1099 from Technique and a 1099 from this other company I work for, but when I'm working weddings on the weekends, I'm getting paid in cash, I don't know what's happening.
Right.
Explain it to me.
Yeah.
No one's explaining it.
You're responsible for knowing what's happening, right? Because the systems haven't been set up for you, as example by what's going on now. The system has been set up to benefit large companies and corporations and old privileged, mostly white men.
I hope we're gonna get to this damn PPP process, because I got a lot to say about that.
I mean, we can go there now. Tamika, why don't you chime in, and then let's talk about PPP.
PPP. So I got approved for PPP. Now, here's the thing with the PPP loan. Once again,
for folks who don't know, PPP is what generally is referred to as paycheck protection. And so it is funds connected to both the first and second round of stimulus funds connected to the COVID pandemic. And it's money that is premised on the idea that it will be spent in 2 months in order to provide for payroll security, so that employers would not let go of their employees and they would not be filing for unemployment.
Exactly. So this is the holes in the whole system. So once again,
the whole thing is a hole.
The whole thing is a whole, actually. Yes, good point. So fitness studio, all my instructors are independent contractors, which means I could not file for them for PPP.
Because one of the requirements that was mandated based on how it was structured is that the person had to be a full-time employee, which means the person has to not only work a set.
They had to be a W-2.
They have to be a W-2 employee.
And you have to be providing them with benefits that are costly, in particular for companies that are small and have fewer than 500 employees.
Exactly. So this is how we're Black and African American, so we know the system wasn't designed for us. So let me tell you how I know the system wasn't designed for me. First, most small businesses are mom and pop, which means they don't have employees. It's the owner and maybe the owner's wife, son, family members. So most business, particularly in Harlem, is a mom and pop brand. If you do have, I
want you to say that again slowly because I never thought about the fact that like mom and pop shop actually referred to a thing that's relevant in capitalist society.
It's a thing. When you walk around a community, that coffee shop that you love to go to, when you walk in and you see the same guy at the counter and he's the owner, he didn't get any funding from this. He may not be here when you get back. When you go down the street and you see that little close, see the mom in the back and you see even her kids in the front, she probably didn't get funding from this because she doesn't have a significant amount of employees. Now, as someone who has 10 instructors, they're all 1099 employees. I could not file for them under me. And that's why I gave them classes so that they could, use our clients and create these classes and formats. And that was long before the PPP ever came out because I don't rely on the government to help us because they've never been here to help us before.
We have to save ourselves.
Exactly. I've
been saying it for months. We have to save ourselves.
Plan. It would have been nice, but it was never going to be part of the plan. So I got approved for PPP. The way I got approved is they look at only what I pay myself. I'm a small business. We're 4 years in. I pay myself the bare minimum to be able to survive. And any money that I make, I invest back into my business. That's how you grow. That's how you do as a small business, particularly within your first couple of years. They look at how much I paid myself last year, divided by 12. I got approved for $1,800. That literally can't even buy me 2 months of groceries.
You said you didn't say 100,000.
No, $1,800.
Which is technically less than what most people got simply for having filed for
unemployment. I went ahead and returned the PPP loan.
No, unemployment too, but I'm also talking about if you just filed for taxes and were under a specific threshold, you got that check. So
you got the check, exactly. So I returned the PPP because it will, in the future, if I wanted to file for unemployment, I wouldn't be able to. It automatically takes from, I would get, that's a week and a half's worth of unemployment right now. A week and a half, and that was supposed to last me 2 months. And that would have been all I'd been able to receive. So I went ahead and returned it. One, I could only use 75% of it to pay myself and only 25% towards paying Harlem Psycho bills. So it definitely couldn't have been used. And then I would have to go through a lengthy forgiveness process to get it forgiven. So in the end, I'd still have to pay them back this $1,800 plus interest. It was a waste of time. It's a waste of time for a lot of businesses. And being in Harlem, I've already found out that only 10% of businesses in Harlem even got approved. And if I'm in the 10% at $1,800, can you imagine how ridiculous the numbers are for businesses here? So in this whole process, it wasn't designed for small businesses. It didn't look at the actual structures of real small businesses. If you're looking at 500 or less, there's no business that has 500 employees that's considered small. It's just like 500 people is a lot of people. Right. That's a huge corporate structure there. And 500 people at one location. So that's how all those other businesses.
Right. That's how Shake Shack got away with it. That's how Chris got away with it.
That's how Harvard University got it. That's how they got it. They saw the holes in the system and they snuck their way in.
Because they have the ability to leverage teams that told them where to go. Right.
Teams where to go.
Communicating with constructing these laws and rules.
Not only that, but they also know, like, if you had given me $10,000, that would have been a significant seed into my business. But instead, they chose.
It can't even be a seed into your business because as an owner, you can't reinvest the money that you got for PPP.
No,
you can't.
It has to be given out to employees. So it wouldn't have even helped with the business. But instead, they chose to give away $20 million to these larger companies because the banks profited from it, because they have to pay interest on this if they don't pay it back. Plus, the banks get to charge the federal government processing fees to process that loan for them. So it's all at the end a big scam, of course, for banks to win and larger businesses to win. Small businesses were completely left out of that whole PPP process. And it's only for 2 months. We've already been shut down for 2 months. So now what? Now what for small businesses?
And so our experience with PPP was different, but the same. So we applied for PPP. We are 7-figure grossing business, right? And we have a small staff, a full-time staff of 4 people, and that would include Taco and myself. So, and we also have an office in New York and an office in Atlanta. So we have a considerable amount of overhead, and we have an attorney on retainer. We have an accountant on retainer. And most importantly, because we have 65 artists all across the country, we have a very high insurance policy that includes workers' comp, because you cannot work in entertainment and have people going on set without workers' comp.
Right.
So our bills are sizable and considerable. So our banker, when PPP was announced, was very like, listen, this is what you need to apply for, and this is how we're going to do it, and these are the documents that we need, right? This is how you're going to win. So we have all our documents together, and the application opened April 7th to do it online, because we bank with Chase. And I always say, when I talk about this story, I said, Taco and I had separate jobs. My job was to finish the application. Taco's job was to pray me through the process, right? Like that was our job. So it was a disastrous application process, because it is a 7-screen process that really, in real time, if you had all your documents together, would have taken you maybe 30 minutes. It took 2.5 hours because the site kept crashing, because everyone was applying at the same time. So you could have gotten to the 7th screen where you just had to press, I accept, I agree, and got kicked out, had to start all over again. Then the most crucial screen was the first screen, where you had to input how much you made based on 2019 records. Now, our 2019 was all right. Our 2020 up until March 16th was amazing, right? So for pound, we made, as owners, considerably less in the first quarter, Q1 of 2019, than we did Q1 2020.
Yeah.
So we're already going to take a hit, right? Because your numbers are lower. Right. Then when you input your number, it automatically spits out the number that you qualify for. Then you have 15 minutes, even with all the documents you have in front of you, right, to figure out how much money needs to go in these 6 slots: payroll, rent, insurance, health insurance, mortgage, miscellaneous. And if you got a loan, if you received a loan from the SBA under the economic injury disaster loan, then that also counted too, but they didn't make that clear. So when we finished that application, that 2.5 hour journey, I could have passed out, because literally, like, then you have to upload your documents. So it was a laborious task. And you couldn't call anybody, right, while you're doing, like, you couldn't even call your banker, because bankers don't answer their phone after 4 o'clock, or they don't answer emails after 4 o'clock by law. Chase, they can't answer your emails or something when they're out of the office. So we got declined for PPP the first time, because they said on one of the documents that we uploaded, there was some number that didn't make sense. So they let us reapply, right? And they let us reapply so we found out we were declined April 18th. They let us reapply April 24th in our same spot for consideration when we applied April 7th. By April 21st, we had received a loan from the SBA. So now that changes our numbers. But they didn't make that clear what that change was going to be to your PPP loan. So we got the money the second time, right? So we get approved, right? We get a sizable loan. It was the nice size loan, okay. But we can't. So then we're like, okay, well, we're going to, as owners, Taco and I, we're going to take our money and we're going to reinvest this, right? We're going to put this back into our business. No, you're not. Mm-mm. You can't do it. So your cap in 2 months, no matter how much that you were making as an owner, you can get more than $15,800, right? And from that $15,800, you couldn't say, okay, I'm going to put this $5,000 aside. I'm going to reinvest this back. Because when we open up, if we open up in July, we're going to need money to function with. You can't do that, right? And then you're still paying yourself 75% of what you would have been paying yourself. One day we wake up, we check our account, and there is a hold on our account. Because what they didn't tell us was if you got an SBA EIDL loan, they are going to subtract that money from your PPP loan. And now, even though you may have budgeted to the penny your loan amount, now you're working at that deficit. And
they hadn't clarified that part of it.
They never clarified that. And it was to the point where I called my banker, Ronnie. Where's the money at? Like literally, like that's the conversation I had.
Now Mr. Telephone Man is in the back of my head.
Where's the money at, Ronnie? Who took my money? Like where is it? And he said, I don't know what happened, but you're the first person to call me about it. So I'm expecting more calls now. Mm-hmm. At the end of that day, he said, I got 40 calls today. Because it happened to 40 people. The next day, so he puts in whatever request to have somebody call me. The next day, a woman calls me from Chase and she says, I don't even know what your application looks like. I didn't handle online applications. So I can't even tell you from an intelligent place what happened to that chunk of money. Don't you work at the bank?
Right, but everybody's learning at one time.
So what are you calling me for?
Right. Why you
so I said, let me tell you something. Go play with your mama. Don't play with me. Where's my money? Okay? Where is my money? Like that was literally where I was.
How?
Right? And she was black too. So I was like, let me tell you something, girl. I'm not playing with you today. I need you to tell me intelligently where this money went.
And what was the resolution, if anything?
So the resolution was 10 days later. Well, we have this sizable hold on our account. They said that you can't have two of the same type of loan. Mm-hmm. So you can't have two SBA loans. Mm-hmm. So what they did was when you put the money that you received from the EIDL loan, they subtracted that from the money Chase gave you and they combined it. So now that number from Chase has to include your EIDL loan.
Got it.
It was a disaster.
It feels like it, and I didn't even go through the process. I'm exhausted.
So, I say that to say where business owners fail is they don't watch the money, right? They leave it up to somebody else. No. And I come from the school of, this is my business. This is my livelihood. So I'm going to know how every piece of this functions. I may not do it every day, but I'm going to know how each thing functions. And I'm going to know where the money's going, right? So if Taco and I didn't stay on top, even from before this happened, if we were not on top of where our money went and how we spent our money and our money flow, then we would not have been able to still survive even after taking that hit. That unexpected hit. So, if anything, what I would say to any business owner who is a current one or an aspiring entrepreneur is you have to pay attention to the engine. This is not a hobby. this is paying your car note, it's paying your mortgage, it's paying your rent, it's paying your kids' school fees. Treat it as such. Your business won't run without money. Passion is important. You have to love what you do. And you have to love what you do to go through this, right? Right? And after going through all this, say, when this is done, I'm going to keep doing this, right? You have to have passion. Passion doesn't pay your mortgage. You have to know from the fruits of your passion, where's your money?
Can I ask you this? Donna Marie said this in the chat, and it had me thinking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Are both of you still paying yourselves first? The thing that she said was, I was taught never to not take your salary. Loan your business back the money, but pay yourself first.
We don't pay ourselves first.
You don't?
We pay ourselves last. Interesting.
And Tamika, you?
I pay myself a salary, but that salary is the bare minimum for me to be able to literally pay my rent.
So still a version.
There's a difference. So, that is something we've all been taught. You should pay yourself. Yes, yes, yes. But when you just start up a business, that's not physically possible. If you don't invest in your business won't grow. Now, I take enough that I can pay my rent and survive. There's no extra luxuries that I'm taking out. I'm not driving any fancy cars. You'll probably see me in this sweatshirt the next time you see me. Like there's nothing extra happening in my life. But the rest of it goes back into building my business. And because of that, though, we've been able to grow. We're opening our second studio. We're doing all these different things because I've invested and knowing that the payout will come later.
Yeah. It took us a few years to draw a salary, right? Because there was, like I said, we started at a negative, right? You start with negative $45 at zero. So with that being said, for the first 2 years of business, we were paying ourselves the bare minimum, right? What do you need to survive? But how we had to figure it out was, we have all these contractors that we pay because our artists are independent contractors. So we pay the contractors, we pay our staff, and then we pay ourselves. It wasn't until about year 3 or 4 where we were able to say, okay, now what's going to be our salary?
Yeah.
And actually, I appreciate that. And also the reminder, Tamika, that the lessons that are applicable for privileged, often mediocre white people don't really work for us.
No,
that wasn't lost on me. I want to acknowledge the gift of your time. Again, acknowledging that you're business owners who are taking on a whole lot more in this moment. I'm going to say thank you. I think as both of you know, I'm really happy I'm wearing this. You can't see it all, but this Black Policy Lab shirt. They got a lot of love as I ran a few errands, again, masked up today in Harlem. But we are collecting data around COVID while Black and COVID while Black and queer. And one of the things that I'm going to take back to the group is this idea, as has been talked about in the chat, of resources and support, federal support, literal support for small minority women-owned businesses that employ independent contractors, right? So really honoring the economic engine that makes our communities and country run, and otherwise finding ways to make sure the government supports. My last question as I scroll through to make sure that I haven't missed anything in the chat is acknowledging all of the gifts that y'all have given, the game that you put people on today. What do you need from the community? What would be most helpful to ensure that both of you and your businesses and all that you're able to do for the communities that you touch and serve are able to thrive?
So for us, coming back, it's going to be a difficult road opening up. It's definitely going to be difficult in the sense that, one, people are scared to be indoors. They're scared to be indoors doing something that is extraneous, that causes you to breathe heavy, that causes you to be with ramping back up.
Tamika, you buzzed out a minute. Start over for me because you went out a little bit. Can you hear me?
Start over?
Yes.
Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you better now. Yep. Joy the technology. With Teddy Riley Spirit, we rebuke that. Yep. Just start over though. See, I should have said that name because that.
But for us, it's when we come back and we're we need from the community
You
is
jinxed Tamika Davis.
that constant support.
Yeah.
That constant support coming back.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long opening process. People are scared to
work out. I know something that I think about.
Breathing heavily in front of someone else. But yeah, so it's gonna be a long road ahead. So for us, the support comes in many forms. One, supporting different. So even if you're studio or you go somewhere else around the world, support the live stream classes, support the download classes, support those different, and also continue to spread the word about Harlem Cycle. We're doing workout classes, but we do a lot of self-care and wellness events that are virtual, that are for everyone, because once again, we're all about community and staying connected. So support those activities, get your friends involved. We need to continue to spread the message of health and wellness, particularly for our community, because our community has been the hardest hit by this. So we need this more than anyone else coming out of this. We need to make sure that we're taking care of our health and wellness. So making sure that we're
yeah, that's right. And you are at Harlem Cycle across.
With who we are, they feel more comfortable. We've been doing our workouts at home.
I hate this connection. And you are at Harlem Cycle across digital platforms. And what's the website? Is it harlemcycle.com?
Yes.
I should know it. And then the app is
our app?
Yes.
So you can find us on the MindBody app, but anything that you need is on our website. You can schedule from there. You can schedule all of your live stream classes from there. You can download all of our downloadable classes. Everything's on our website.
It's super easy. Again, I go on the app, you click on the date on the calendar, it tells you which classes are offering, you sign up for which class you like, you then get a link sometime before the class, click the link, and then you're zoomed in. It's specific to you. I haven't been Zoom bombed. And again, it's a way to stay connected. Appreciate that. Yaya, what do you need from the community?
What I feel is necessary, and I've had many conversations like this. What I feel is necessary is a team or a group, a collective of Black women entrepreneurs. Because in this application process, during this COVID process, or this COVID moment, this pandemic that we're living in, what got us through this was the other Black woman that we knew in business, right? Because no one's going to save us but ourselves. So coming out of this, I hope that we don't lose and that we create a formal community where we constantly talk to each other, where we share ideas, where we share resources, because that kind of collective doesn't exist in New York, not on this grassroots level. Like, they're the organizations that you have to pay for membership and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's all nice and glossy and fancy, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a real community, a real down-home grassroots meeting of the minds that constantly happens between Black women entrepreneurs. If we are the largest group of entrepreneurs, then where are we? Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I hear you. Let's do it.
I love it. I wrote down that I'm going to share this as well with my sister, Natalie Cofield, who runs Walker's Legacy. And as a Black feminist, Black male feminist, I know when it's my role to step out. So I will share this video with them and empower y'all to do as y'all do and always lead, and let me know what I can do to be supportive. I don't see any questions in the chat. People are affirming everything you're talking about. To Koa, who is always present and powerful, who I love after having met just once, because she loves people that I love, is saying, yes, we have to share resources. We have to. We
can all succeed. Like, this is what I want to leave people with. We can all succeed in the same space. Yeah. Everybody offers something different. It does not have to be some crazy competition.
Let me tell you something. Resources. That's the lie that white supremacy and capitalism tell.
Right. Like, listen, throw them Willie Lynch papers out of here. We're not even going to deal with that. Let's talk about some real stuff. We need to literally, we have to pool our resources. We cannot thrive alone. No one's going to save us but ourselves. I've been saying it for a month.
I have to put that on a t-shirt. Last 4 questions to each of you. One is, what are each of you reading?
Nothing. I'm reading nothing.
I love that. Now, I asked this question a lot, of not a single person has said that to me. Respect.
I am literally so.
Well, let me get the name of the book I'm reading. Hold on.
Okay. Wait, Tamika, you're frozen. See, we got this. We got to get broadband. That's good. That's the other thing that's on the list is broadband connectivity. Everybody's on it. Takora, that's dope. You're partnering with your direct competitor right now to raise money.
Oh yeah,
for the industry.
The Bonte app is a competitor, but we realized that. I mean, this is not the book I'm reading. But we realized that they created a fund that because we knew that we had to help our community. We had to help these artists. We had to, and. There are all these funds that start, and they were all so glossy and so like, oh, it's L'Oreal. It's no.
Yeah,
no. I want to know.
You're connected now, Tamika. You were saying something.
Oh, I'm back. Okay. So I'm reading nothing. So the reason I'm reading nothing is what I found is my anxiety is at 150% right now. I can't focus on anything. If I open a book, my mind is racing. I literally cannot focus on a book right now. And it's actually caused even more stress in my life to try to read something because I can't focus on it. So I'm watching Netflix.
I love that. Yaya, what are you reading?
So the book that I'm reading is my sisters and nephew and I have started a book club, and we are reading MJ Lee, Where the Truth Lies. So that is what I'm reading, along with, the normal CNN and Shade Room. And
I'll talk about that. What are you both listening to?
I'm always listening to Toni Braxton.
So
any given day of the week, Toni is in deep rotation.
Right, I'm here for that.